Hello and welcome to this short video from the technical team at River Meadow Software. In this, our second video, we will demonstrate the migration of a two-tier application from one Azure region to another. We could of course migrate it to Amazon Web Services or to one of the VMware clouds. Let's start by taking a quick look at the application. We'll log in and check there's some data available to us. And look, there is. So we'll come back and look at this later. Okay, moving along, let's go look at the River Meadow portal. It's a SaaS product, so we're going to spend a lot of time here today. The first thing we need to do is add a cloud appliance into the target cloud. Now, for the purposes of demo, we've done this already. The next thing we need to do is add our source machines. So we click on Add Source. We need an IP address to be able to communicate with the machine. And we'll also need a username and password, which we'll enter now. Should you choose, you could upload all of the usernames and passwords for the machines in this migration sprint into our CA. This means that you don't have to enter them here in the portal, and we can choose them from that cloud appliance when we need to migrate. We can also add tags. River Meadow tags allow us to sort on the machine types and machine operating systems to make management simpler. As you can see, we now have a source added successfully. However, this is a multi-tier application, so we'll need to add a second source. So we repeat the process. We add its IP address, we'll add a username and password. It's the same username in this case, which is often a good choice. And we can add tags. For the tags this time, we'll add subtly different tag because this is the database, and so we'll put SQL in the title. This allows us to sort on the application type as well. Okay, let's click on Add Source, and you can see that we now have both sources added. Clicking on Host IP selects them both, and we can select on Inspect Source and Configure Migration. We'll select the target cloud. We're not going to select any of the other options to use stored sources or to do a data-only migration, and certainly not ignore validation errors, and we're going to check migration readiness. We're going to skip over the migration readiness checks. We saw those in the first video. We're going to take a more detailed look at the migration profile. Firstly, we're going to rename this one something more useful. So we're going to call it StockTrader Migration Profile Group, because this is a group of machines that we're going to migrate. That done, we're going to add some useful tags. We're going to put in the target we're going to and the name of the application, so Azure and StockTrader respectively. Then we're going to go take a look at the source machines and check that we've got a mental note of those. And also we're going to take a look at the landing zone information. That could be important. Again, we can schedule this for now or later, and you can see that we can schedule it for any date, but we're going to schedule it for now because that would make for a boring video. We can apply a migration extension at the global level, but we're going to dig into each machine in the group and look at its settings separately. Let's start with the first machine, and let's change its name and put clone on the end. Then we're going to need to assign some storage. So let's go down and select some storage. We'll use standard for this instance. So let's go ahead and accept the defaults for transfer methods. CPU and memory, well, we'll select that now by selecting a VM size. We're going to have to do some network configurations, so we select some defaults, but what we'll do is we're going to add a security group and then we'll add a resource group later. So you can see that we've selected dynamic public IP, and now we'll select a security group. Next, we need to select a resource group. We can either create a new one or we'll select one that we've already created. You can see here that we've got the option to add migration extensions and do some advanced settings. In this group we've got two VMs, so what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to configure the migration profile for this second VM as well. So you can see we've got various options, like we've got disks and we've got CPUs. So first thing is to rename it to clone, like we did with the previous one. Secondly, we've got multiple disks, so we need to select a storage type. We're going to accept the default for transfer method and configure a VM size to define those CPUs and memory. Then we need to set up the network, the same as we did before in the previous VM. We're going to select a security group that we've already created, and then we're going to add an existing resource group. We've got the option for migration extension and advanced settings for this VM. Don't need those, we'll continue and ignore that warning. And so we start some of those all-important pre-flight checks. We're going to check both virtual machines and quickly check the migration profile. As you can see, we saw this warning earlier. It repeats it to make sure that we're aware of it. So after a quick check to make sure that it's not going to cause us a problem, we can see that the other two pre-flight checks have passed and we can start the migration. Let's go take a look at these migrations in the migration screen. They're both progressing. Let's drill down into the detail by clicking on the eye icon for one of them. You can see that we have a lot of detail here around what's actually going on with the migration. We've sped this up for brevity's sake. Step 5 is where we collect the data and actually move it. We've sped this up, but as you can see it took 26 minutes. We're going to whiz through the rest of these steps in demo time, but you can see there are 21 steps, the final step being consolidate migrations. That means that we've actually finished, there's actually a machine in the cloud that we can now start testing on. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So what we're going to do is check this application is actually working. Let's go to the IIS machine and find its public IP address. Then we can browse to it. Right, let's copy that. And now we're going to paste it into a new browser window. So open a new browser tab, paste it in. We've appended a little bit of an extra URL. And there's our title page. Let's log in, demo user, and a secret password. And you can see there's our database, there's our trades actually working in the cloud. Probably worth pointing out at this point, this is just a demo system. I'm not actually going to lose my shirt on any of these trades. Now we're all safe. Let's go and change the database by executing a trade. So we're going to buy 100 shares in S4. You can see that we've executed that trade. If we go to the home page, we can see that there's some figures there that have changed. That's what's important, is that the data has changed. You can see that maybe if this was the real world, I would be losing my shirt because there's some horrible red numbers at the bottom. So just to prove no skullduggery, we're going to go back to the cloud version. You can see that the numbers aren't reflected there yet. What we've got to do to make that happen is we've got to do a differential migration. We're going to do it on both of the virtual machines in this application group to make sure that everything gets moved across. And we do that by clicking on the little refresh icon in the migrations view. This sets up a differential migration profile, and we can just quickly click through. It'll do some pre-flight checks and check that it's ready, and then we can do the differential migration. We're going to repeat that for the IIS server as well. So clicking on the icon again, checking that everything is set up. We can exclude the Windows drive if we need to, but we're going to include it for this instance. And there we go. Everything's ready to go. We'll migrate, and off we go. The differentials are now happening. As with the full migration, we can see this in the migration screen. So let's go and dig into the detail, click on the eye, and we can see that everything's happening. Things are beginning to work their way across. We're collecting disk information, we'll collect the data. And again, this is sped up for brevity and to stop you guys getting bored, so it happens very quickly. In real terms, this would take a few minutes. Don't forget that the machine that's actually the authoritative copy is the on-premise one, so anything we do to this cloud machine is not going to affect your users. So all this time that we're spending, your users are still logged in and they're still running. And it's finished. So let's close that window down quickly and let's go and have a look at the migrations and prove that they've finished. Logging back into our StockTrader account using our demo user, we can see that that negative, that nasty red stuff has moved across and it's been copied across correctly and accurately. That concludes this, our second video. Thank you very much for watching. Please watch out for more videos in this series, and if you need us, we're at sales@rivermeadow.com.